Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the next session of our Fabric Data Days series. My name is Anna. I'll be your producer for this session. I'm an event planner for Reactor, joining you from Redmond, Washington. Before we start, I do have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional, and on topic. Keep an eye on that chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions for our moderators to answer. Our session is being recorded. It will be available to view on demand right here on the Reactor channel. With that, I would love to turn it over to our speakers for today. Thank you so much for joining.
Hello and welcome everyone. We are excited to be here. My name is Mike Carlo. I'm with here also with Pargati. You.
Hey everyone. Hope everyone is doing great and quite ready for this session today.
We're going to jump right in today. We're going to start right off with our introduction slides here. We have a number of people helping out in the chat as well. So we're going to just go through a couple intro slides here, introducing who we are and what we're going to teach you about today. Today we're talking about the PL-300 going up to the DP-600. These are leveling up your skills. These are exams that you can take to qualify what you already know in your head and what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So this is a great way for you to show your knowledge and use it as a resume builder for you as well. That being said, let's jump right on in. My name is Mike Carlo. I am the owner of Carlo Solutions. I'm a Microsoft Data Platform MVP. We build a number of data products for you built on top of the Fabric platform. One of those you'll see is Intellexos. Anyone who has ever spent some time at Power BI Tips, if you've Googled anything about Power BI, you probably have stumbled across the website at some point. I'm also the creator of Power BI Tips. And if you want to catch me, I have some social media things down below, YouTube and LinkedIn. Over to you, Pargati.
Hi everyone, this is me, Pragati, and I'm a Microsoft Data Platform MVP as well. And I work at Avanade here in United Kingdom, London. And my main skills are helping clients basically build sustainable and scalable self-serve Microsoft Fabric solutions. And my social link is on the screen. It's a LinkedIn link. So if any of you guys want to connect with me, then yeah, definitely go and hit connect there. Over to you, Mike.
Excellent. We have a number of people helping out in the chat today. So I want to call out Matt, Cecilia, and Kevin. Thank you so much for your participation. Please ask lots of questions. These are experts of the community that'll be here to help you and educate you and answer your questions as best we can. So please be mindful of the chat. Ask your questions there and we'll get right into it. All right. Kicking things off here with Fabric Data Days. We're going to have a couple announcements here around this. This is a 50 days of data and AI learning, education. Definitely check out this link below. There's going to be a lot of information there on that site, other links and other videos you want to participate in or things you want to pick out and learn. Make sure you participate here and follow this link. Okay, here's some upcoming next week, or this week, sorry. We have Fabric Data Days, Getting Certified, some Data Days Professional Data Viz contest elements here, which is awesome. I love seeing what people create across the community. This is very exciting for me because it inspires me to build better things. Also, you have this session, the DP-300 and 600, leveling up your analytic skills, and then check out Data Viz Design with the World Champs. This is what we just had recently. The World Champs of Data Design were nominated at the Fabric Conference Vienna, and I think those are the champions that will be there talking about what they've built. For the full schedule, check out the link down here at the bottom. We definitely want you to get engaged there as well. Some contests and challenges that are coming up. If you want cool swag, I have a nice little shirt here with a little Fabric icon on it. And if you want other swag items or swag related things, you should definitely check out these contests. There is exclusive Fabric swag being given out here. And you'll also see appearances from your live finale showcases as well. So definitely check these out as well. Most of these end on November 25th. So if you're interested in participating, we really want to engage you in the community. Again, check out the link down below at the bottom. That will help you get all the information that you need around jumping in and getting started. All right, getting certified. This is kind of what we're talking about a little bit today. You can complete a skills challenge and get discounts on things. A DP-600, here's a link for that, aka.ms link, and a DP-700 exam as well. If you'd like to join a study group, we have links for those as well. Fabric Data Days, that's FDD, at studygroup.com, a study group, and then aka.ms Fabric Data Days as well. Again, check out your discount codes here as well if you want to look at those and get some discounts on your exams. We really think this is important for your career and exciting for you to get started with these certifications. All right, another slide here around some announcements. Get a free DP-600 certified for free. So here's your QR code link here. I'll leave it here for just a moment. If you want to get out your phone, scan this QR code. You can check it out directly here at this Cert 100. You can also use the link down below if you'd like to get there as well with the link. All right, we'll move on. All right, on to the main the main show here. All right, I'll kick it over to my co-presenter, Pragathi. Up to you.
Thank you so much, Mike. Thanks, Anna, for sharing my screen. Okay, so let's get to the topic today for what we all are here. So today we all are going to talk about like how we can level up our skills from PL-300 to DP-600, basically leveling up our analytical skills. Now, before I go into details of the session, one thing that I really want to mention in the starting is like today we are covering all the skills included in DP-600 in a single hour. So it's a lot of content. And the slides that we are going to present today are very high level, but we'll attempt to touch on all the skills group equally. So in this session today, we are going to cover, or we'll try to translate your Power BI expertise into your Fabric fluency, basically from OneLake plus Direct Lake to semantic models, pipelines, lakehouses, and deployments. So you can actually pass DP-600 and deliver value in Fabric. If you're already feeling confident with your Power BI skills and you're ready to start working further up in the data stack and want to level up your skills and building solutions that scale, then this session is for you. So let's get started. Okay. So what we are going to cover today. So today we are going to explore how Microsoft Fabric helps us grow from building reports in Power BI to building fully analytic solutions as an analytical engineer. We'll start with data preparation, which is the key foundation. So like in Power BI, if you have already done PL-300, then you're already an expert in Power BI. So in Power BI, we usually use Power Query to prepare our data to create a single semantic model. But in Fabric, the only difference is that it expands to like using different methods like data factory pipelines, Dataflow Gen 2, or notebooks for transforming and managing your data across multiple sources in OneLake. Then further, we'll move to semantic modeling, where we are going to cover some familiar concepts like, for example, relationships and measures that we can scale up. We will also learn how enterprise semantic models, direct link mode, and governance let you build trusted, reusable data products instead of one-off models. Then further down the line, we are going to cover maintenance, where we are going to keep our solutions reliable. So Fabric adds tools like monitoring capacities, managing your workspaces, and automating your deployments with CI/CD. This is where you shift your report management basically to managing your analytical systems. Finally, we'll talk about the DP-600 exam readiness, like how you can prepare for this exam, like through using Microsoft Learn Paths, using hands-on labs, the community resources, and so much other stuff that we have got out there for DP-600. By the end of the session, you will be in a state, hopefully, to understand what it takes to move from Power BI practitioner to a Fabric analytics engineer, and how the DP-600 basically helps you validate those skills. So let's dig down into DP-600 skills in detail. So before I dig, one very important thing, let's make this session more live and interactive. We have got amazing 3 moderators in the chat. And I know they're going to answer all your questions because they're community experts. We really don't have to answer anything, but keep it more proactive. Add your comments, add your questions that you have. We all are here to clear all your doubts and queries around DP-600. Okay. So data analytics certification. Now, here we are going to, quickly just look at what all data analytics certifications are available, especially when you come from Power BI background, what kind of skill sets you'll need to skill up yourself to achieve some of these analytics certifications. So I will quickly go to the next slide, and we are going to discuss around what those data analytics fabric role-based certifications are. So when we talk about fabric role-based certifications, mainly there are two certifications that come through in the analytics side. One is PL-300, which is your Power BI Data Analyst certificate. And the second one is DP-600, which is your Fabric Analytics Engineer certification. In addition, there is also a third certificate, which is DP-700, but that is Fabric Data Engineering certification. But if you are trying to scale up from PL-300 to the next level, then DP-600 is the right certification to go for. DP-700 is more for the people, more for the audiences who, or for the skill set who come from data engineering background. So today we'll talk more about DP-600. Let me now quickly switch to my screen where I would like to show you some certification. Sorry, I think my link just got disabled. So when it comes to DP-600 certification, it covers certain areas. Till the slide is loading, let's quickly go to the slides. So this Fabric Analytics Engineer certification is an intermediate level certification. And as a candidate for this certification, you should have subject matter expertise in certain areas. Now, let me directly go to the study guide for this certification, where we can see like what all areas this certification covers quickly. So when it comes to skills measured in this certification, it kind of covers three main areas, like how you can prepare and enrich your data for analysis, how you can secure and maintain your analytics assets within the environment, and how you can implement and manage your semantic models. On top of this certification also requires you to be, skilled in using certain language like SQL. Now, if we look at these skills at a glance, these three, hope everyone can see my screen. Maintain and data analytics solution is 25 to 30% of this certification. Prepare your data is nearly 50% of your certification. So if you are a Power BI skilled person, this is where you make most use of your skills. Third is implement and manage semantic models, which is again 25 to 30%. So maintaining a data analytics solution, when we talk about this area, this covers more around how you can say implement security and governance in your workspace or in your environment by putting some workspace level access controls, item level access controls, and row level, column level, object level controls, and also sensitivity labels and endorsements. And when it comes to maintaining the analytics development lifecycle, it's more around how you can do the version controlling of the assets within your workspace, how you can create and manage your Power BI desktop project files, or say how you can configure or manage your deployment pipelines, or how you can manage your semantic model, say using XML endpoint. So these are the different aspects of the certification that you'll be required to learn for this. And when it comes to prepare your data, and especially Power BI users who have already cracked PL-300, Power BI has got Power Query, which is used for preparing in data. But when it comes to Fabric, it adds to some additional methods that help you prepare your data. So for example, getting your data by various different sources. You can also choose Lakehouses, warehouses, and event houses where your data can land in. You can implement Lakehouse integrations. And when it comes to transforming data, you will be required to know more around views, functions, and stored procedures, how you can implement star schema for Lakehouse or warehouse, how you can aggregate or merge, how you can resolve duplication or null values, or how you can filter data. And when it comes to querying and analyzing data, it's more around how you can use Visual Query Editor in Fabric, which is very easy to use and it's quite interactive as well, and how you can use SQL, KQL, or DAX language to analyze your data. Then the third section is more around implementing and managing your semantic models. And this is more around what kind of storage modes you should use. Now, when we talk about Fabric, whenever you publish a semantic model, you have a direct link mode enabled in it. And in the Power BI time, we were used to working with, like, say, direct query mode and import mode. But now this is a third mode, which is available in Fabric environment. This also requires you to know how you can implement those relationships on the model, how you can write calculations using DAX variables and functions, how you can implement calculation groups, field parameters. So this is all that we have been already doing as Power BI developers. Then further, it also expands to how you can optimize your enterprise scale level semantic models. Now, that's the major difference when you want to scale up your skills in Fabric. In Power BI, we are used to working with one semantic model, but when it and its optimization. But when it comes to Fabric, we think about optimizing our enterprise level scale semantic models. So it's not just about one semantic model, but it is about creating a semantic model that can be used as a trusted source by multiple people to create reporting on top of it, or using it for further analysis. So that's like a quick view on what this DP-600 certification has got. I'll quickly jump back to my slides. Okay, so this is what we quickly covered, what this certification is around. So now next, oh, sorry, did I just skip a slide? No, sorry. So the next slide talks more around the areas that I already covered in the study guide. So these are the three main sections where we went through what all topics it has. And I'm sure one of our chat moderators will be more than happy to put a link to the study guide for DP-600. Then that would be lovely. And as I also mentioned few things, like when it comes to preparing data section, then we as Power BI developers need to, just use our skills here and, just step up our game by just learning scalability in Fabric so that we can implement our skills there. Now, over to you, Mike.
Excellent. So I'm going to give a quick introduction of what is Fabric and just go through a couple high-level elements here as well. I want to be clear, a lot of this technology that you're looking at here that is now inside the unified platform of Fabric, these are tools and technologies that have existed for many more years than you have seen inside Fabric. We're seeing a lot of the great rich technology that Microsoft is developing over in Azure being brought into a single unified platform. And that's why we're so excited to use this. The integration between these different tools is just so seamless and makes our customers extremely happy, going from loading in data using Data Factory, doing data engineering work, shaping and transforming the data, and then serving it out in our service layer in the Power BI layer as well. So there's a lot of tools being added here. Let's go to a quick overview of this platform. We don't have to spend a lot of time combining different data from different data sources. We have, again, this unified platform. And one that's really important to note here is the unified data foundation, the OneLake. All of your data is reading a similar format and can be stored and read from the same storage area, the OneLake platform. Inside the OneLake, you build these things called Lakehouses. Those Lakehouses are easily storing all your information, but it makes it really easy to distribute this information or provide metered access to it using workspaces and things that you see that you're familiar with inside the Power BI realm. So that centric architecture, the pivotal part here that makes this so useful is the fact that OneLake is binding all these different tools together. So super important there. Another couple of features we'll call out as well, especially when you're building code, I've been finding an immense amount of value with Copilot. Everyone's been talking about large language models and agentic things that are in the place right in the marketplace right now. And Copilot is extremely useful for when you need a little bit of extra help writing some SQL, or you have some trouble with a DAX statement, or you need to give it some suggestions around Python in potentially a notebook. This is where Copilot excels. The data and information is protected. It's in your organization. It's not being sent anywhere else. You can guarantee that what you're asking the Copilot to do is in your organization from a security standpoint, but also it's now helping you get above and beyond. This has fully removed any fears that I had about building Python inside Python notebooks. I can easily ask a Copilot what I need to know in order to develop and build out what I want for my Fabric environments. We also get this really rich data factory. I love data factory things. There's a lot of pieces in this that you can use. You can use Dataflows Gen 2. You have pipelines. And you have real-time analytics over here in the real-time intelligence area, where you can get real-time analytics from event hubs and have that information flowing directly into your reports as well. We also get, for those who love SQL, we have some really rich SQL tools here as well. Data warehousing and databases both run on SQL. And if you are a SQL developer, you're going to love these experiences. One that I'm really enjoying right now is the T-SQL notebook. A little bit different than how you're used to writing a SQL statement. You can have command blocks, just like you would do in a Python or Jupyter notebook. But you now can do the same thing with T-SQL, which is extremely exciting to me and very useful when you're doing a lot of testing or manipulating or trying to understand what's inside your data and data tables. Anyways, this is a great tool. We hope you really enjoy this one. I think you'll find a lot of value from all these different experiences here as well. Moving on. Okay, here's a little bit more around your data storage experience. So you can build out a single centered location for all this OneLake. So OneLake is the system, right? And then the Lakehouses are all inside these different buckets, basically. So when we talk about OneLake, OneLake's like a service, but then we talk about where the data is actually being stored. We're storing all that data directly inside our Lakehouses. So that's what we're doing here as well. We also have things that can really work very well with different teams. So if you think about your organization, we have a lot of different areas of the business that may need specific access to tools. You may have a team that's a bit more comfortable working in Python. You may give them an area where they're going to be using a notebook to access that data. You may have a different department that's actually really good at SQL. They have hired a lot of SQL developers. Their skill set lives in SQL, and you may need to give them a data warehouse. The neat part about this is, again, all the data can be stored in that OneLake environment, but the tool that you're using to access that information is based on the needs for that team or those users. So again, you have the SQL database, KQL as well. That's more for like real-time analytics. It has its own query language, but we have fully supported T-SQL across all these query layers directly on this Lakehouse information. This, I think, is one of the biggest features here that we can talk about because it really breaks down data silos between different customers. One thing you'll notice here inside the DP-600, because we're talking about that particular topic as well, the DP-600 really focuses on batching your data. There is some streaming of data inside Fabric and real-time intelligence, but that's not really kind of out of the scope for today. But the DP exam is going to really focus on that batch processing, loading of data in that data engineering process. All right, let's move on over to what happens in our warehouses. You have a data warehouse and you have a SQL database. SQL databases are recently added to our platform, which is awesome. If you are a SQL developer or a DBA, you'll find great comfort in these tools that you use inside Fabric. The data warehouse is just like Azure SQL, but it scales out a little bit better. It's enterprise grade. It's multi-parallel processing, MPP, massive parallel processing on top of the warehouse. So it distributes your queries. It has hyper availability to large data sets and need to have a lot of access to data. Your SQL database is a bit smaller in size. It's for data sets that are using for your team, still full SQL. And you can do prototypes. You can do referencing data that you're going to supply to other parts of your lakehouse, or you have a specific app that you need to build on top of this. Me personally, in my business, I'm building real apps on top of SQL databases that live in Fabric. So this makes a great pairing between I have an application that's doing real transactional data, and that data automatically lives inside Fabric. And when I want to do analytical things with it, it's already easy to access that information with other tools as well directly inside Fabric. Both these two tools, the warehouse and the SQL Analytics database, can read directly to and from OneLake. So if you're working with a massive data model or a small project, you'll get the same experience. And I love this feature about it as well. You're only charged for what you use in those services. So you buy your Fabric capacity. If you are not hitting the SQL database very hard, you have other capacity available to run other experiences inside your Fabric environment. Okay, Lakehouses in Fabric. So the data lake is this really highly scalable distributed storage space. It allows you to have a read-on schema. So you can just throw files in there like JSON files, and then it uses this schema on read. When you access that with a notebook or when you access it with other tools, they can read the tables that are there and identify the schema and pull those out for you. This is one of the, I would call it the modern data architecture. It works really well for organizations who are looking to get started quickly. And this adds a wide variety of other data formats other than just semi-structured or structured data. You can also add images, video in there into Lakehouse as well. It's just a file storage system. Also, you have the data warehouse. The data warehouse allows you to build relational schema. So as you transform your data, you're going to build tables of knowledge for your business. And this is, you can talk about the bronze, silver, and gold architectures, the medallion type architecture here, where you take this raw unformed data from the lake and you kind of pick it up, transform it, and then put it back down in better, more designed tables for your business and consumption in businesses. Now you have this data warehouse where you can then directly query that data using a model with relationships between tables. Other things that I really like, I'm a big fan of all of these Spark environments. So you can do a lot of transformation in Spark notebooks or T-SQL in Spark notebooks as well. That's also an option for you to query your data directly. So this is a major shift for Power BI users. What we've been doing in the past is we typically would pull data from some sort of data service, put it into memory, and we would store that data directly inside the semantic model. What's happening here now is we're moving a lot of that data engineering that we used to be doing in Power Query, and now we have a wide variety of other tools that will allow us to build any kind of transformations or additional enrichment to that data. So we can store these tables, and then you can use Direct Lake, which comes right from the lake. The tables are already optimized and can be immediately loaded into Power BI reports or semantic models. This is a major shift in how we've been building things for Power BI. I've been building Power BI since it came out, and we've always been thinking about direct query and import. The Direct Lake mode is a game changer. Think about all the data engineering that you do in your job. Imagine if you never had to import another model again, and you could just directly pull that information right from a lakehouse. That's pretty cool, and one of the features that I really, really like to use and find very impactful when we start moving into Fabric. So you could think a lot of this as, we're doing a lot more data preparation and a lot of transformation inside Fabric. And this is one of the major, I think, differences between when we start talking about the 300 exam versus the 600 exam, is we're now able to expose ourselves to a lot more of these rich tools that help us build better data engineering pipelines to get this data into our semantic models and ultimately our reports. All right, I think we're about ready to transition again. Pragati, over to you again.
Thank you so much, Mike. Okay, so after a great introduction around Microsoft Fabric by Mike, let's now dig into how we can prepare data in Fabric. Now, Mike already touched base few things like, okay, in Fabric, there is more, which we can use as Power BI developers, right? So let's just dig into how we can transform data in Fabric. Now, one thing before I go to the next slide is I want to point here is like in Power BI, most of our prep used to happen in Power Query, right? And the data model or the semantic model was usually for a single report. But when it comes to Microsoft Fabric, we are still doing the same things, but we are doing those things at scale. So in Fabric, we'll be preparing the data once, so it can be reused by multiple teams, multiple models, and multiple reports. So basically, we are not duplicating things. We'll be creating a more trustworthy source. We'll be basically creating a model that can be leveraged by different people in the team or multiple teams to do the task that they are entitled to. So today we'll break this into 3 steps, basically, this section. We'll start with getting data, then we'll see how we can transform data, and then we'll also see how we can query and analyze data, showing, how each of this section expands beyond our Power BI capability. So let's just go to the next slide. Okay, so now in Fabric, again, saying the same thing, Fabric has got something more to what we are used to doing. In Power BI, we have probably used, like, say, some different data sources like, say, Excel or SQL or web sources. But when it comes to Fabric, it in a way adds some kind of scalability and flexibility to ingesting the data from dozens of sources. Or you can also bring batch data, or you can also bring streaming data. Now, tools like Data Factory, pipelines, these tools actually help us automate our data flows. While Dataflow Gen 2 and Spark notebooks, they can really help us prepare and transform our data before it is even modeled. So when it comes to Fabric, these are the 4 key methods which we use to ingest data and prepare data. Dataflow Gen 2, which is very similar to what Power BI users are used to using. That's basically the online Power Query editor, backed up by some scalability and parallel processing power in the Fabric. Then the second one is notebooks. Notebooks is again good for parallel processing and especially good for working with big data. Then pipelines, we can use pipeline to copy data, or we can also use pipeline for, say, orchestrating our existing processes. Then there are shortcuts also that we can use to bring in data, say, in a different workspace, or say we can use shortcuts just to reference the data rather than duplicating data. So these are the different ways we can get data in the Fabric environment. So basically the idea here is in Fabric is we have one ingestion process that can actually feed, like, say, multiple reports or dashboards or analytical products. We are not basically anymore copy pasting or duplicating data or creating one-off semantic models for doing all the analytics. So let's go to transform and explore data. I'm going to quickly go through these slides because I want to show you some ready demos that I've got in the environment. So when it comes to transform and exploring data, again, when it comes to, if we go back to the Power BI world, we are used to doing transformations using Power Query, usually just for a single semantic model, right? So we bring in data, do the transformations within Power BI itself, create model and use it for reporting. But in Fabric, transformations happen even before the data reaches a report, and they're usable by anyone in your organization or anyone in your team. So basically, we are doing everything we already do, we already know, like joins or filters or aggregations or different kind of transformations, but we are also leveraging the capability that Microsoft Fabric has got, not just Dataflow Gen 2, but like, say, Apache Spark notebooks, which are very good for when you're working with large or complex data sets. Then, yeah, doing all kind of aggregations, data before modeling. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly switch my screen to show you some ready demos. So this is my Fabric environment. Okay, in the demos it happens. Now, as I understand, most of the audience come from the Power BI world. So let's start doing things when it comes to using online Power Query editor, because we are already used to using Power Query. Demo gods are a little slow on my side today. Okay, let it load. We go to the next slide. Rather than wasting time, let's go to the next slide until it loads. Okay. So this is what I was about to show you, getting and transforming data with Dataflow Gen 2, because that's the low-code, no-code graphical environment for defining ETL solutions within Fabric environment. And that's something we all as Power BI developers are, used to using. Okay, my screen loaded. So let's go back to Fabric environment. Now I'm going to just show you one of the data flow. And when I open this data flow, it will look very familiar to Excel users, Power BI users, because Dataflow Gen 2 is basically just the online Power Query editor. And it gives you the same capabilities with some additional capabilities that we have got in Power BI Desktop Power Query editor. Okay, we'll go back to slides again. We are not wasting time. So when it comes to using Dataflow Gen 2, it's very similar to how we are used to using Dataflows in the Power BI universe. And it is, again, the cloud ETL process where we can load data from various sources, we can transform it. The only difference that comes into Dataflow Gen 2 is that in the earlier days when we used to use data flows, which were actually the Power BI data flows, we never were worried about where our data is going to get stored, where my final transformed data is going to be written. But when it comes to Fabric environment and I'm trying to write my Path query code using Dataflow Gen 2, I have choice to land my data to a certain destination. Because as Mike said earlier in one of his slides, that Fabric gives us capability to choose the kind of data storage we want it to be. It could be a lakehouse, it could be a warehouse, it could be a KQL database, it could be a SQL database. So that's what Dataflow Gen 2 allows you to do. Once you have got your data ingested and transferred, you can actually choose a destination where you want to write that data as a table. So you can either choose a lakehouse, warehouse based on whatever you are looking to do. Again, data flows also run independently, or you can also create a pipeline activity to trigger these data flows. Let's see if the environment got loaded. Yes. So this is a very, let me know if the screen is not visible, guys. I'll try to for the Dataflow Gen 2 is, and as I said, this is very much similar to what we are used to using in Power BI. You can see all the transformations that are available there. We can add columns, then we can view some statistics. In addition, the only additional thing, there are two additional things actually here. One is this diagram view, and what this diagram view does is it kind of shows me like how my queries have been merged. Now I don't have anything merging, but the two queries to result a third query, then it would have shown me that kind of flow here. So this diagram view is really important in that sense, just to understand visually what's really happening with the queries within my Power Query editor. I'll just turn this off right now. And then the next thing that differs in Dataflow Gen 2 is whenever you are done with your transformations, then you have to choose a data destination where you want to write your final transform data. Like in this case, I went ahead and chose Lakehouse. Now it's up to you what you are really looking to do. Now I just chose Lakehouse because Lakehouse supports both structured and unstructured data. But you can choose warehouse if you want to choose warehouse, and there are other options also you can choose as data destinations. So that's what Dataflow Gen 2 is about. It's very much similar to what we already know. Let's go back to the slide. So that was a quick look around what Dataflow Gen 2 is about. Then orchestrate data with pipelines. Now, as I mentioned earlier, that we can use pipelines in Fabric to basically automate a data movement and transformation at scale. So this is basically, something that goes beyond what we are used to doing, like a Power BI refresh. We can actually orchestrate like multiple sources, schedule batch or streaming loads, and write directly into lakehouses, warehouses, or SQL database. And these pipelines also include like monitoring and error handling. So for example, if you are trying to create a production ready process, then this is kind of the pipeline that you would create, because it is going to, in a way build a foundation for enterprise analytics, because it is kind of monitoring your processes, and it is also helping you to error handle if anything fails in your environment. Then few things that I can actually quickly show you a pipeline in the environment as well. Let me just close my data flow. Okay, it always does that. It is a little slow. I'll give it some time to load.
I'm going to make a little note here as we're talking about this. I'm making some comments here to what's in the chat window here as well. I want to address something that's coming out, which is a great point. People are asking, like, what happens if I have a Mac? How do I get access to things? What does all this do? And so, Pragati, while you're getting your browser figured out here. Notice all of this is happening inside her web browser. And this is the neat part about Fabric is it's all browser based in general. And you can build pipelines, you can load your data, you can model your data, and you can even build reports and paginated reports directly inside the service. So yes, you can still use Power BI Desktop, and Power BI Desktop does require a Windows computer to use Power BI Desktop, but no longer do you have to be bound only to using desktop. Mac users can very much build and create very rich reporting solutions directly inside Fabric as well. So again, the idea here is this is a all web-based browser. So Safari will work, Chrome, Edge, any modern browser will be able to do all these data engineering processes for you directly in your browser. And I'm finding, me personally, more and more, I'm spending way more time directly in web browsers building and data solutions than actually going to desktop. I spend much less time in desktop anymore. I find myself spending a lot more time, particularly in the data engineering space. There's a lot of work to be done there, mostly for organizations, but I'll spend a lot of time doing the data engineering side. And again, all that happens inside a browser in Fabric. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of Microsoft Fabric, right? It has got all the capabilities. I keep on saying this line. It has got all the capabilities under single hood. You really don't have to go anywhere else to create an entire process from data ingestion to data analytics. You can actually do every step in a single browser. So this is basically a very simple pipeline. Basically, what it's doing, it's triggering one of the data flow within my workspace. And if it kind of fails, then it triggers an email to my email address. Okay, my data flow failed. And just to give you an idea now, this is what a pipeline looks like. You can see different kind of activities that you can add for a pipeline. Like, for example, you can create a copy data activity. You can have a copy job. You can add a data flow activity, which I have already created. You can also trigger a notebook from here. So there are so many other different things you can do using a pipeline. And again, you can run the pipeline. You can schedule the pipelines as well. Like, for example, if I want to run this pipeline, which will eventually trigger my data flow, say I want to run it like every 4 hours. So I can add that kind of schedule and make that pipeline run every 4 hours. So my data flow runs and does all the magic and writes all the data back to my Lakehouse. So that's how easily you can create pipeline. I mean, it's like just click. You really don't have to write any code in there. And that's something, I mean, trust me, guys, I'm a core Power BI person. I never knew all these things. I have no idea how Azure pipelines work. But when I was given this Fabric environment, I was able to follow things. I was able to create pipelines because it's like very much user-friendly. It is very interactive. It is just no code. Really, it is a no code based approach. I really didn't have to write anything. It was just click job. So that's how easily you can create pipelines in Fabric environment. And this is actually an example of orchestration where I'm trying to call my data flow. And if it fails, I'm trying to send an email to an email address that, okay, this my data flow failed. And I can also, on top of that, schedule this pipeline. So let's go back to the slide. And one good thing about pipelines is also like these can be reused across reports and dashboards, and they've also got like built-in monitoring, logging, and error handling. Like, for example, the ones I showed you or the one on the diagram here on the PowerPoint is like, if it fails, then don't trigger the notebook. When it runs, then only trigger the notebook. So it is kind of trying to error handle as well. So that's the beauty of using pipelines, and they're so easy to use because you can automate batch and streaming workflows. You can orchestrate your processes using pipelines. Let's go to the next slide. Now let's quickly go and see how data transformation and exploration can be done with Python with notebooks. Now again, for Power BI users, this could be like something, okay, notebooks, I have never done coding in my life. I get you, I feel you, I relate to you. I have never done coding in my life, and never good as like Mark, because Mike is like a great data engineer there. But like as a layman person who doesn't know coding, I ended up writing a notebook. And this was like very easy, guys. I mean, trust me.
This is my favorite part right here.
Notebook. I literally didn't know what to do. Yeah, I started with the notebook. I literally didn't know what to do with it. Trust me. But when I started exploring it, I was like, oh, I can write the code. Because the beauty of notebooks in Microsoft Fabric is it doesn't support one language, it supports multiple languages. Now, I started my career as a database developer, then moved to data analytics. So I know SQL. So I was like, okay, can I write SQL code in notebooks? Yes, I can write SQL code in notebooks. Let me upskill myself. For how many years will I just write SQL? So I started exploring PySpark because somewhere in my previous years, one of my data engineer left the company and I had to take over his work. So I have a PySpark code. So I started exploring PySpark code. Okay, so this is a very simple notebook. Don't get scared about the code because I won't take credit for first 3 cells of the work which I did. So this is a simple notebook. It looks pretty good. We have got multiple language support. See, if you know Python, you can write PySpark. If you're a data engineer, you know Scala, you can write Scala code. If you're someone like me, a data analyst, a database developer, you know SQL, so you can write SQL queries within our notebook. So you can literally create a notebook just with your SQL queries. You really don't have to know Python or R or T-SQL or Scala. You can just write everything using SQL. So this is the beauty of Fabric. It has got everything for everyone. It is not stopping you from learning new skills because it is giving you that environment where you can use your existing skills in the same time upskilling yourself to learn new methods of data ingestion and transformations. So that's how I ended up writing the notebook, and it was pretty very easy to write the notebooks. This is, I mean, this is the PySpark code, I know, guys, but this is very simple, which kind of reads a frame and then you displays the data. And it was very easy to do certain transformations, which I analyzed while analyzing this data in the Lakehouse, and then did some cleaning and then wrote it finally as a table in my Lakehouse. So yeah, notebook looks tough, but it's not. You can write. If I can write notebooks, trust me, guys, anyone can write notebooks. Let's go to the slides again. So I quickly showed you how you can quickly, and yeah, definitely I had a PySpark code there, but you can write a Spark SQL code there. The benefit around using notebooks is like there are certain somewhere there are, sometimes there are scenarios where our data flows can't handle the large models or large volume of data or complex calculations, especially complex calculations. Then notebooks could be the way to go. Now, I should not say Dataflow Gen 2 can't handle large volume of data, because now we have got this fast copy functionality in Dataflow where it is really good with handling good amount of data. I have tried it with few billion rows of data and it works pretty fast. But when it comes to complex calculations, data flows can still be little slow. So when you are doing those kind of calculations, maybe notebooks are the way to go, just to speed up your process. And notebooks also support exploration, experimentation. You can also do some kind of testing before even modeling your data. And they kind of integrate very easily with your lake houses and warehouses, so you can directly write your data there. And also it complements data flows for enterprise scale data engineering. So basically, say you are ingesting your data through data flow, but doing all the heavy complex calculations using notebooks and then writing it back to lakehouse. So you can use these two things together pretty well, and they would really help you with some large scale optimization and scaling. Now, querying and analyzing data. Now let me again quickly show you, switch to my window. So whenever we write a data to a lakehouse, let me go to my workspace. So whenever it comes to whenever you create a lakehouse in a Fabric workspace, what it does is it also creates a SQL analytics endpoint. Now, when I say SQL Analytics endpoint, by the name of it, you can understand it allows you to query your data using SQL queries. The one thing here is this SQL Analytics endpoint is read only. Okay, you just read data from here. And what it does is when you enter into the SQL Analytics endpoint, it shows you all the tables that you have written down in the Lakehouse. And on top of those tables, you can actually run SQL queries. Like you can do counts, you can do groupings, you can just try to understand how your data is basically. So like for example, within my Lakehouse, I have got few tables in there. Time to load. So let's quickly flip to the slide again. So you can clearly see, like I showed you the very similar view where I had my queries. I've got my tables, and then you can see there's a query going on here, which is a very simple select top 100 from this table, and it kind of gives me results. The good thing about this approach is even before creating any semantic model, you have a capability to analyze your data in an environment where you are capable with. You can not only explore your data just with writing SQL, you can also explore that data using KQL, DAX, or even using notebooks. You can test all your transformations and also validate your data at scale here. And this is really good for ad hoc kind of analysis before even your data reaches to your report developers for reporting. Let's see if it loaded. Oh yeah, it didn't load the data, unfortunately. Oh yeah, it loaded. So you can see all the data, all the tables that I've written here. When I click on them, I see a good preview of them also here. It will take some time to load, so I'm not loading it. But yeah, on top of this data, you can actually write SQL queries. Like for example, I ended up writing a very simple SQL query, which kind of just selects count star on my table. I can run that. I can see, okay, what's the count? And similarly, I can write more complex queries based on the kind of analysis I want to run on these tables. So very friendly environment, very easy environment, very easy to pick up if you are coming from a SQL background. Keeping time in mind, I'm going to a little bit run quickly now. Okay, I think I'm on time. Okay, so the next mic.
Excellent. We'll jump right here and we'll go into implementing and managing semantic models. So we'll jump in here to semantic model elements here. And this is where, okay, we've done work. We've made tables. We've put these tables in and out of the lake a couple times. We've refined the data and made it clean. So again, refining the data, getting storage of it. Now we're ready to start really presenting this data out into the semantic model range. So what does this do for us? My mental model here is we have all these really rich data engineering tools, pipelines, notebooks, SQL databases, data warehouses, and that's like a very large funnel on the ingestion of the data side. We get down to the semantic model, and the semantic model really describes what our business does with their data, what tables are important to them, what dimensions are important to our product team, and all that information can then be relayed together, and that's where the semantic model comes into place. It's super fast. It runs really well, and so you kind of have this narrowing effect. After you've done all the data engineering, you get down to this really nice semantic model, and then once we leave the semantic model, on the other side, we have a proliferation of other tools that we can use to visualize the data, build a paginated report, build a Power BI report, use a scorecard. There's all these other analytical visualization elements that we can bolt onto these semantic models. So models are really made to be that changeable knowledge base of how does our business leverage our data? And that's what this is designed to be here. We really want to emphasize that models can get really large. They're designed to be scalable. They're designed to be built quickly and maintained with your team members and add those insights directly to your team. So also here, we can do some really neat techniques here as well. As we shape the data upstream with all the data engineering tools, we can do really interesting things like aggregation tables or incremental refresh. Again, really helping us design the model that supports the business needs. Some people in the chat here were talking a little about what about real-time analytics? What does that look like? So when we really design these models, we actually also want to put in some business context as to how the data is coming to us, and do we need reporting that is real-time based? Do we need reporting that can be aggregated and batch processed into larger amounts? So a lot of times when we're talking with customers around real-time analytics, you're not building a single semantic model or a single report that's going to handle all the analytics for real-time and everything else that is slowly changing, batch processing as well. You're really thinking about what is that unique solution. And again, we can have this all bundled and packaged together in an organizational app, which makes it really easy for us to take these real-time reports and reports that are being built on batch processes as well. And now we can have this really consolidated view of multiple analytic solutions in one delivery solution. All right, moving on. So these are the things that we were typically familiar with: import and direct query. That's what we've done in the past. The direct lake is the change mindset here. So when we were doing import, we were using Power Query. We were using our own compute to grab all the data, compress it. Typically, data is coming from a SQL server or some other, Excel file, SharePoint, whatever that is. And what happens is that data is stored at the row level. When we build data sets and semantic models, we're trying to compact this data into columnar storage. And that's very fast for us to read and process the data quickly to get it into our reports. The neat part here is when we talk about direct lake, the compression of that data is happening upstream before we get to the semantic model. And that way, when the semantic model is ready to grab that data from direct lake, it immediately loads the data into memory, and the model's caching that memory and running those models directly on reports. So there's a lot of really rich behavior inside the direct lake. If your models are doing something interesting with security or the model size exceeds its limits, there is some fallback capabilities where the direct lake will fall back to direct query mode. And there's also designs where you can force the model to never fall back and only use direct lake, and then it will fail or not send the data to the reports if it's overwhelming the model with all the queries that are in there or the loading. So again, depending on what your business needs, if you want to have to fall back to direct query, you can turn that on. If you don't want it to fall back, you only want it to use direct lake mode, you can turn that on as well. So it's, again, a lot of flexibility as you build these systems. Another thing I want to point out here as well is you can build composite models. So not every table in your model needs to come from the lake, direct lake. Some of it can come from multiple lakes. So you could have two different lakes supporting the same semantic model, or you may have a table that's doing some direct query and some from the direct lake. You could actually mix and match here the different tables and where they come from and put them all in the same semantic model. Again, providing more flexibility to what the designs need to be for your solutions. So let's talk about optimizing semantic models. This is a big topic. You could spend weeks just talking about optimizing things directly inside your semantic models. So here's a couple tips and tricks right away to help you get a better design semantic models. When you're working with a relational database, for example, a SQL database, it's best advice to use a view instead of creating tables directly in that view and pulling them into your Power BI model. If your SQL server or if the upstream data set changes slightly, you can basically handle those changes directly with the view. If columns are added, if things are going to break, you can adjust those with the view. One thing I will note is when you're building views inside direct query, you don't want to build views that take a long time to render. Again, my mental model here is I think of views as being kind of a select these columns and adding maybe a where clause in there. You want your views to be very lightweight and very fast to run. So when you're building them, try not to have a bunch of joins and don't have a bunch of views built on other views. It just slows everything down. It's not as efficient for your semantic model. So recommend using views, but use them in an efficient way. When you're building your tables, get rid of anything that you don't think you need. When you're beginning to build your model, everyone loves to have all the tables, all the columns, everything in one big model. That's good for development, but when you really want to deliver this model to the business, out to your business stakeholders, you only want to keep the items that are absolutely necessary. Get rid of the other rows that are not needed. If you have 10 years of data and your report users only need 3 or 5 years, put a filter in. Get rid of that extra data that you don't need in there. That'll make your model much more efficient, faster to load, and easier to process. Very good techniques as well. Same thing with columns. Get rid of columns you're not using. When you get larger models, very much think about incremental refresh. Talk about partitioning of that data. So these are allowing you to build segments of data inside the semantic model, and a lot of that's handled for you automatically in the model. You don't have to build the individual partitions, but when you're thinking about bringing data into the semantic models, you're being mindful of what is the cuts in time, how big these partitions need to be for the model to be performant. Also, another thing that's really key here to use is make sure you have the proper data types. So if you're storing a string column, don't store that number in a string column. Change the column type to be a number. That's what it should be stored as. It'll actually help out a lot when you're building those models. A lot of things when we build our models are you build it to make it work well with using measures, but you also need to build it well with what your users will see when they come to the model. Can they understand it? Does it make logical sense? So a lot of times organizations build these monolithic, super big models, but when you throw this at business users, they don't understand the relationships between the tables. So another best practice that I like to use when we do consulting projects is to make sure we spend ample time documenting, educating, and making sure everyone understands exactly what's happening inside those models. Last one I will touch on here is make sure you're doing query folding. Query folding happens when the analysis service engine can fold a query upstream to a data source of its choosing. Typically, this is in SQL. I can remove columns, rename columns. I can filter some rows of data. If you do those steps first in the data transformation steps as you're bringing information in, those queries can be rewritten in SQL and pushed upstream to upstream data sources. Again, extremely helpful for making your data load fast and efficiently. All right, let's transition back over.
Okay, so now we come to the last topic of today's session. I'm going to quickly wrap this up. So we are going to talk around maintain an analytic solution in Fabric. Now in Power BI, we are used to refreshing models and managing few reports. In Fabric, we maintain a complete big analytic solution, which becomes much broader because our data, models, and pipelines can serve multiple workloads across the organization. So in this section, we are going to basically focus on few different areas. Like we'll start with some kind of security. So we are going to first talk about data security in Fabric. Now, earlier we used to talk more around workspace permissions, but in Fabric, we have got different levels of permissions set up. It starts with workspace roles, where we can give different permissions to users at workspace level. Then we also have item level permissions. So if we have got different items in the workspaces like notebooks or lakehouses or data flows or pipelines, we can actually give different permissions at different of these item levels. Or we can also give like computer granular permissions or OneLake data access control. So again, we have everything in control within Fabric environment. It is us who can control that access, like based on which user can access the OneLake or which user can access the semantic model to further use it for reporting, or say which user have access to these notebooks so that they can make changes, or they are just read only for them, or they can edit them. So those are the different levels of securities or permissions we can set up in Fabric at different other levels. One thing for having this layer protection is like, it actually starts kind of, at a workspace level, and then, you can go further down and then, narrow it to the item level. And then you can further go deeper down and, you can go at an engine level, whether you want to give them OneLake access or not. So every level has got a different level of permission that you can work with based on what kind of access rights you want to give to the user or a, security user group. Then security at the semantic level. Now, obviously, at semantic model, again, we can play around with a lot of different kind of security. Now, one good thing that we need to keep in mind as part of best practices, like we should have fewer but well-designed semantic models and roles. Rather than having 10 semantic models, have 4 semantic models, but have the right roles on them. We can easily create dynamic roles on the semantic models, like say we can create row level security or object level security to work around with those roles. And wherever possible, we should try to filter the dimension tables and not fact tables, because obviously when you're trying to filter a fact table, it's going to take a lot of time to process it. Also, we should try to match the credentials that we're using between the desktop and service. because if there's a mismatch in that, then we are going to run into access issues. Then there is other capability that is pretty important part of Fabric environment is like we can manage assets through the development life cycle. As I mentioned earlier, Fabric has got the solution at scale because we have created a solution which is more scalable, right? So we need to have some kind of process in place to manage those assets. Now, there are a few ways we can do that. I would like to start with deployment pipelines. The reason is because Power BI developers are already used to creating those deployment pipelines. And yes, we do have deployment pipelines in Fabric as well, where we can move content from dev workspace to test and production environments with proper governance and consistency in place. Then the second thing is we can do version controlling. Now, version controlling can be done on your workspace items using Git integration or Azure DevOps. Then the third thing is testing and validation. We can easily verify data accuracy, model integrity, and security before pushing the content to production. And also there are inbuilt many monitoring capabilities within Fabric Workspace. When I say many, yes, there are many, not just one monitoring capability within Fabric environment. Then the last but not the least is automation. We can actually leverage CI/CD to automate our APIs and service principles for repeatable and handoff deployments. I would quickly show you one thing in Fabric environment is that whenever you go to a workspace, there is under workspace settings, there is a capability where you can actually add your Git integration, which kind of allows you to back up your item, and it also helps you work collaboratively with your team members. So you can easily do this kind of Git integration or through Azure DevOps. The next thing I want to mention is monitoring within the workspace. This is a very good feature around monitoring your workspace. You can monitor all the activities that are happening within your workspace. And this is again like a click thing. You just turn it on and it starts monitoring stuff. Then the other additional thing is this monitor area within the environment where you can, let me just remove the filters, where you can see all the activities happening within your entire tenant basically. So like what all processes I've created, who has created what processes, what has succeeded, what has failed. This is really, pretty good kind of, place where you can start looking and monitoring the activities across all workspaces within your Microsoft Fabric environment. Then last but not the least is something called Fabric Capacity Metrics. Now, this Fabric Capacity Metrics is only available for capacity. I'm not going to open it. It will take some time. But this Fabric Capacity Metrics is only available for the person who is actually your capacity admin, not for everyone else. Though the capacity admin can share this metrics report with other users who have either got admin role or member role on the workspace. So this is again an area where they can monitor what's really happening in their environment. I'll quickly go back to the slides. And yeah, over to you, Mike, again.
Excellent. What's next in the Fabric Data Days? So let's go jump in here. I was answering some questions in chat. Chat is very lively today. I'm very pleased. I think there's a lot of people interested in the CIC, DevOps, being able to store that value. I can't speak highly enough of all the improvements Microsoft has been doing around the productionalization of using DevOps. So jumping in here to some more around the DP-600 exam. Here's a link for you right now. So if you're feeling a little bit more confident about this, we would highly recommend read up on the materials. There's a lot of documentation. There's a lot of Learn docs as well. But if you want to go get prepared for this exam, check out this link here. Make sure you get really familiar with some of these general Azure data engineering concepts, right? So this is going to be a lot of things. If you already have been doing data engineering in Azure, a lot of this is going to feel very similar. I started in Azure Data Factory, and I love pipelines in Fabric because it feels so similar. So that's really going to be useful. If you have experience in these areas previously, you'll feel very at home here as well. So Get started right away. Make sure you get your hands on Fabric. I think the best way to learn is actually get into the product, click the buttons, navigate the UI, figure out what works for your design and your patterns in your organization. Start with some small projects. I do a lot of like little side projects to experiment. You'd be amazed how many small little workspaces I have with test this, test that, build this, get some data from YouTube, go get data from the internet or the web. So do a lot of those little experimentation pieces because it really starts helping you understand the familiarity of what to click on and what things can be done or not be done within the Fabric experience and what you need to do to build regular processes. One really good technique I'll mention here, especially when you're in Fabric, a lot of times I'm doing demos and I need demos that have dummy data in them, samples records. Every time you build a SQL server or a lakehouse, there's actually a one button click you can use when you start that environment to automatically build some sample data directly in there, which is amazing. Super fun to have that in there. And again, makes it really easy for you to demonstrate a lot of things. Spend some time working on your T-SQL. This is somewhat of a new language for some people. I came from the Databricks realm and a lot around the Python development, so I'm spending a lot more time learning a lot more SQL. In my master's degree, I got some time spent getting a direct SQL class as well. So if SQL is your jam, if that's what you like to use, it's all over the platform. I think you're really going to love that as well. Make sure you utilize all the Microsoft Learn modules as well. There's a ton of items there. You can get a wealth of knowledge directly from the learning platform that Microsoft provides for you, so you'll be ready for the exam. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, here's the wrap up here. Here's what's happening again this week. So we have I believe it's the 6th is the next one that we're going to talk about, Data Viz Design with World Champs. So that's going to be your next section you're going to check out. These guys are amazing. I love watching experts build things because I can stand back and just say, wow, these people are amazing. And I love learning from them because I can't do it myself. And the only way for me to get better at my report building and designing is watch these experts build amazing products. So I think you're really going to enjoy that. That's a great lesson to learn things. And you'll see a lot of things you've never seen before. And it'll give you an idea to open your mind up of what you can possibly build. Again, the phrase is, what is the art of the possible? That's the kind of show you want to watch here for the Data Viz Design with the World Champs. All right. Here, lastly, again, if you want to get certified, here's the discount codes. If you're interested, make sure you take a screenshot of this. This will also be up on YouTube. And these are the links that you'll need to get your discounts. We would love for you to use these vouchers and use them up and get engaged with our community and get certified here. This is a great opportunity for you to get a lot of these discounts. All right, finally, our last closing slide here is the DP-600 certification for free. Make sure you get your exam voucher by the 5th or request it by the 5th, and then make sure you use it and get it enabled by December 31st. So there is some time limit here. Make sure you get it and go get certified right away. So don't delay, do it today. All right, excellent. Let's move on. For final resources, here you go. aka.ms, DP-600 prepare, and akas.fabric data days. Thank you so much for attending today. We really appreciate everyone here. Please check out these resources. This is a great opportunity, and thank you for joining the live stream. This has been super fun. Chat's been amazing. A lot of great opportunity to see things going here in chat as well. So thank you so much and really appreciate your time.
Thanks, everyone, and good luck with your DP-600 journey.
Thank you all for joining, and thanks again to our speakers. This session is part of a series. To register for future shows and watch past episodes on demand, you can follow the link on the screen or in the chat. We're always looking to improve our sessions and your experience. If you have any feedback for us, we would love to hear what you have to say. You can find that link on the screen or in the chat. And we'll see you at the next one.